Alex Mahon with MMA Mania. I'm here with Reese Watkins, who's coming off a second round knockout at Ring of Combat 81. Baby Goose, how are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good, man. Just chilling.
Awesome. It's been 3 days since your fight. How you feeling?
Feeling good. Feels good to be home. I'm just taking it all in. I'm feeling good and feeling happy. Months of hard work and to get that result is great.
I mean, it was a fucking brutal knockout. How do you feel about your performance?
Um, Initially, I thought it was good. I thought it could have been better. I did some stuff. I was talking to my coach, one of my coaches in the cage. I was like, yeah, there's some stuff I want to do better. I thought I could have exchanged a little bit better, but other than that, I was happy with my performance.
What do you feel like you could have improved on?
I feel like I was a tad too skittish. I circled out well, but I think I was a little too hesitant almost. uh just due to past experiences. The thing that was on the back of my mind, and then I got lat drops, and I was my coach asked me like during the camp, he's like, I just finished a lat drop, right? I'm like, yeah, I got it. So it's fucking lat drop, man. I'm not gonna get lat drops, and I got lat drops. So I thought I could have defended that better, but other than that, nah, I thought I did good.
What was the game plan going into the fight?
A lot of knees. The game plan was a lot of knees. I worked a lot of switch knees. I worked a lot of skip knees, a lot of forward knees, backward knees to catch Nick coming in because we knew he was going to shoot. So to catch him on his blitz, and then when he was dipping his head for a double leg or single leg, that was the game plan to catch him with a knee.
Gotcha. There's something I want to ask you. But before we get to that, for anybody that does not know your story, how did you get into mixed martial arts?
I got into mixed martial arts from jiu-jitsu. I studied Brazilian jiu-jitsu when I was 14. In the original gym I was doing it at closed, so I switched to another gym and I started training with Bruno Fazzato. And he competed in MMA for a while before he just switched to doing jiu-jitsu full time. And he was like good friends, or he's good friends with Davi Ramos, who used to be in the UFC. And I think Davi was up here at the time training with him. I don't remember. But I think Davi was up here for part of his camp working with Bruno. And yeah, he just asked me, Bruno asked me, he's like, have you ever thought about doing MMA? He's like, I think you'd be good at it. So that was kind of in the back of my mind. So I was like, yeah, I'd like to check it out. Then I started doing Muay Thai. I took a Muay Thai fight, did an IKF tournament, and just kind of spiraled from there, from doing Muay Thai fights to taking MMA fights.
How'd you find jujitsu at 14?
Uh, I I stopped playing football. I played football for a couple years when I was like 8 to 9 to 10, I think, and then I played soccer, and I stopped. And so I was like just lifting in like a basement and then lifting at a gym with my dad. And he's like, yeah, you need to play another sport. He was like one of those parents who's like, my parents were like, you got to play a sport. So my dad's brother, my uncle, was doing jujitsu. So I just went with him one day and I just, fell in love with it. So I just started doing it a couple of days a week.
So you've been an athlete your entire life.
Yeah, pretty much for the better part of almost like 6 years. I've known I've wanted to fight professionally, make it to the UFC hopefully. So for the better part of a decade or half a decade, I've been, training and
Awesome.
fighting.
Awesome. Baby Goose, where'd that come from?
So that came from when I was doing Muay Thai one day. I was 16 at the time, I think. And I was always like the youngest person in the room training. So my coach at the time, he was just like, "Yeah, baby goose." And I was like, "Man, this whack. This, what are you calling me that for?" But he's like, "Yeah, because you're the youngest one here." So he's like, "You're the youngest one here." And my voice was even like softer at the time. I've always had like a high voice, but it was even higher back then. So he just called me that, and it stuck. Other people started calling me that, and so when I needed a nickname for like a fight, I was filling out all the registration. I was like, just this is it. So that's what I stuck with.
So you eventually came around to it.
Yeah. Once people, it's kind of hard to make your own nickname, and once people give you one, it's kind of sticks with it.
Gotcha, man. So you went pro this year after a pretty long amateur career, 6 fights. What went into the decision to go pro?
The decision, by the time I wanted to go pro, I had six amateur MMA fights. I had five amateur Thai fights. And I had, amateur belts aren't that hard to get. They throw them at you, but I had five. Um, so I kind of fought all the people I need to fight. I had the cage time. I had the like the ring time, the cage time. I had seen a bunch of different looks. I fought a really good wrestler and lost him, but I fought a good wrestler. I fought good strikers in Muay Thai. So I've been training at high intensity. And I was talking to one of my coaches, and he made me realize it's not just like, it's not just you don't make money as an amateur. You put wear and tear in your body that you don't get back. And at that time, I had been training with professionals. I've been training at a high level for years. I'm at like a pro level. He's like, you're training at this level, and this is mileage in your body you're not getting back. So I was like, okay, let's do it. Just send it, and just make the jump.
And you went pro in April. You get that finish, the third round.
Yeah,
How did that feel?
that felt good. I kind of got it set up the same way with elbows. Because the first round, going the jump from pro to amateur, like the everything felt the same except the gloves, was like a big difference. But other than that, everything was normal. But obviously, the gloves are 4 ounces as a professional, and they're people don't realize how thin they are. And so I was like, okay, cool. I have 5 minutes now. I want to start slow. And I remember just eating like a stiff jab to the face, and with that little padding, I was like, oh, that kind of like shook me. So I ended up eating like a bad knee to the face and losing the first round, and then came back in the second via elbows and knees. So for me that felt uh it felt not great in the moment. Like after the fight, my face hurts and I'm bleeding. But after, it felt good, but in the moment it didn't feel good. It didn't feel great.
How did you
Yeah.
find ATT Team Lima?
My teammate and like my best friend, he had switched over to ATT Team Limo. We came from a smaller gym called X3. And he had switched over just because X3 was starting to like collapse, and there's a whole bunch of litany of issues we had with it. So he switched over to ATT while I was in college, actually. And I ended up dropping out of college and coming home, and I just followed him to ATT because we had heard good things. We are always in the amateur scene, the local amateur scene. Everyone kind of knows everyone, so we always like cross paths with the guys or ended up fighting their guys. So he went up there, and I just went up here and went up there with him. And I knew Trey Sean Gore. He was out of there. I was like decently acquainted with him. We had talked a few times. So I hit Trey, him Nathan, just switched over there.
Nice. It's a credentialed gym, so how's
Yeah.
it? How does it feel fighting out of there and representing them?
It feels great. Diego Lima, he does a lot for me. Just helping me, you know, get better as a fighter and as a person, and getting to train with like Douglas Lima. I learned a lot seeing just like those high level pros, picking up different things off of them. And Diego and Douglas and like Coach Ducal and Brentley, they've all been around the block and seen it all and done it all. So for me to be able to learn from them, and for them to let me represent them and their team is a great feeling.
Awesome, awesome. All right, well, let's talk about like what's next, man. The 2-0, two finishes. Um, what you want to fight again this year, or are you done this year? What's the plan?
I definitely want to fight at least one more time. Two would be great, but hopefully at least one more time. I know Ring of Combat's having another card in December. I think they said December 1st. So I'd love to fight for them again. If I can get something before then, I'll love to take it. Hopefully to get to 3-0, 4-0, and to start getting my name in the conversation with like bigger promotions. Um, So hopefully to get something like LFA or Bellator or Dana White Contender Series. So to put myself in a position where these guys like, oh, we need a late minute replacement or something like that, where my name can come up. So definitely 1 or 2 more fights to get to 3-0, 4-0. Hopefully by the end of this year, or definitely 4-0 by like the next quarter of next year, first
So
quarter
kind
of
of,
next
so kind of planning like so, say you get another fight, you go 3-0 in 2023. Maybe next year you jump to an LFA, a Fury FC, CFFC,
year.
like a bigger regional promotions, right? Get your name on UFC
Yeah,
Fight Pass, get you known, and then rack up maybe 2, 3 more fights, and then get your way to the Contender Series.
yes, sir. That's straight up the plan right now. Just trying to get myself out there, and I feel like I have a very entertaining style that people would like to see. I always joke with like my wrestling coach. I'm like, I'm gonna have a boring fight one day, and I haven't ever. Except the one fight I lost. So, and even then, I dropped the guy. So I guess I really haven't had a boring fight. So, you
I
know,
mean, I can't disagree, man. You're very fun to watch, and that's what gets eyeballs nowadays, right? Is fun fighters. 21, you're turning 22 in November, correct?
yeah, November.
So, big picture, when would you like to be in the UFC?
I would like to be in the UFC by, I definitely say 25. I don't want to make the mistake or like curse myself and being like, oh, I want to be the youngest UFC, whatever. Um, when it happens, it'll happen. Hopefully that I'll make it. And until then, uh, I've sparred with world champions and high level UFC fighters, and they're world champions for a reason. That's like a dumb thing to say, but they're good. So I don't want to rush it. I don't want to rush my career and get to that high level and realize I skipped a level. I skipped a level of development.
Right.
But I definitely want to get there by like 24, 25 for sure. If it happens sooner, good, but I don't want to rush anything. But definitely I'll say 25. Hopefully I'm in the UFC by then.
And I think you have a perfect mentality because, man, there's some people that get to the UFC with 5-0, 6-0. They lose 3 fights, they're out of the UFC, and it's very hard to
Right.
get back to the UFC, right? So I'm guessing that's not what you obviously not you don't want your path to be.
No, no, I don't. I've seen it happen. Know people that's happened to. Um, so I would definitely want to take my time and make sure that I'm ready to get a call from a major promotion. Um, that I'm ready there, or ready physically and mentally.
And then finally, you jump between welterweight, middleweight. What's your weight class?
I think for the time being, middleweight. But when I get signed to a major promotion, I'd like to move back down to 170. Um, you know, my first professional fight was at welterweight, and that was like the first time I made welterweight in a couple years, and I missed it by I think like point like 8 ounces. I think I ended up shaving my head, all that. It wasn't great, but good opportunities come short notice. Early in the pro career, it's like, oh, we need a guy in 2 weeks, so we need a guy in a month, and welterweight will take me at least like 7 weeks to make. So for the time being, definitely middleweight, and until I can have the time and the luxury and like the money to afford, a nutritionist and a more dedicated like meal plan and all that, definitely middleweight for the time being.
Yeah, I mean, and that's smart too. I've talked to a lot of regional fighters who are now in the UFC, but at the time they're like, I don't want to like I don't want to get paid to cut a fucking bunch of weight, like
Right, right,
when I don't have to, right? For
right.
as much as you're getting paid. So I think that's the right decision as well, man. Is
Yeah,
especially if you want to stay active, right? Like
right.
short notice
Yeah.
calls is
Right, like
really
I want to
high.
stay active and like staying at middleweight would be nice, but like for this last fight, I walked back in at 198, 199, and you got guys who are walking back in at 210. So, I'm only 5'11" at that. So, like Chris Curtis makes it work. I'm sure I can probably make it work, but my life would career wise would be easier at 170, maybe. So I feel like that's the place for me to be
Awesome.
eventually.
Gotcha. Awesome. Well, Reese, I really appreciate your time, man. Thank you for doing this. And man, if you want to plug your social media, any sponsors you might have, and if you want to thank anybody, the floor is yours.
Yeah, man. You can follow me on Instagram at Watkins period Reese or Baby Goose MMA. I post MMA memes and all that. That and on a TikTok is the same handle. And just want to thank my team ATT Team Lima for helping me get here, and Barber Orthopedics for helping me get to all my fights healthy.